with the audience on which team has actually won your soul. So what we'll be doing is we'll do a quick intro of every speaker, and then we'll do 3 minutes per speaker. So we'll start with 3 minutes of Nilotpal, who is introducing why he's in favor of blockchain and why he thinks that that's going to be the enabler. And then we'll move over to the other side, to Aman, to pick up from there. So, and then everybody has 3 minutes in the opening arguments, and then we'll move to the closing arguments. So everybody has 6 minutes, and then we go to the audience to ask the audience for questions. And then we have the question answered 3 minutes by one team and 3 minutes by the other team. And then everybody can jump in from the teams. So with that, I hope that everybody understands the format and is excited as I am. So a quick introduction about myself. My name is Joeri van Geelen. I'm a Dutch national, but I do live in Singapore, pretty much a digital nomad, sort of camping around the world when COVID is not an issue, essentially. And I speak at a lot of conferences. I advise startups, among which, for example, Lavatech, who is here today from Lavatech is Tatsiana. And also I'm advising on Marigo Sports, and Jeroen is here today to highlight a little bit more on that. But also on other startups in the blockchain space, I'm closely involved and mostly on the blockchain economics. Like just helping them to get funds raised and starting up the venture. So with that, I'd leave my personal intro for what it is, and then I'd like to invite you, Nilotpal, for a quick 1 minute introduction on yourself. Nilotpal?
You're on mute.
Yeah.
Am I audible now to all of you?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm mute. Sorry. Thank you so much. Yeah. So very warm welcome to all of you, and thanks, Joeri, for the invite for this particular event. I'm pretty interested, pretty amazed to see the kind of panelists we have in today's session, and I'm very excited for the discussion to be upcoming. A quick brief about myself. I have been in the blockchain ecosystem for the last 4 or 5 years now. Have been an investment banker earlier, consultant prior to totally entering into the blockchain space. Have worked with a couple of companies before. Right now, I'm pretty much independent, helping startups, investing in them, and also providing some kind of investment advice, strategic advice, and even growth advice to different startups in Asia, India, and across the globe. So that's pretty much about me. Now, maybe I can just start with the session. Is that fine with all of you?
Thank you so much, Nilotpal. Jeroen, quick intro from your side.
Okay.
That's better. Hi, guys. Well, I've been, my name is Jeroen Gösgens. I'm just like Joeri from the Netherlands. So I'm also a Dutch national. I've been working league level football tournaments all around the world with clubs like Real Madrid, FC Barcelona, Juventus, you can name them all. As a result of COVID, unfortunately, we had some issues this year with the organization of events because everything was cancelled. So everybody's in the same situation. And that gave me some time to invest quite some time in blockchain and also in sports related projects in blockchain. And that's actually the reason I'm in this panel and I hope to tell you a little bit more about it later on.
Thank you so much, Jeroen. Ms. Rama Devi, please, the floor to you for a quick intro on yourself.
Thank you, Joeri. I'm Rama Devi. I'm from government of Telangana, which is one of the states in India. I head the emerging technologies wing, which comprises of all the industry 4.0 technologies like AI, blockchain, cloud, robotics, and so on. But of all these technologies, blockchain is very close to my heart. We have been working on this technology for the last 2 years. And my role primarily is to see how we leverage these technologies within the government organizations. That's number one. The second one is how do we develop the ecosystem for this technology so that we have startups, they have all the required, it could be incubation support, investment support, or whatever, or how do we improve talent within the ecosystem. We enter into partnerships with various universities, organizations to build talent pipeline here. And we also offer certain incentives to companies that come here and invest. And companies, startups that are actually positioned in Telangana, they have a special incentive in the form, like if they have a product that suits the government needs, we actually procure that solution from them and we implement it in the government. So government would be the first customer to them. So this is about me. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and it was really a pleasure to be in Telangana and Hyderabad last year. And I was very impressed by the innovative agenda that the government is driving out there. So great to have you on the panel, Ms. Rama Devi. Yeah, thank you. Then we move to the other side, the speakers against the motion. Aman, it was a pleasure to meet you last year in Hyderabad. Quick intro from yourself.
Likewise, thanks, Joeri. Pleasure to be here. I can see some of my friends are already in the panel. So yes, my name is Aman. I'm born and brought up in New Delhi, the capital of India. This is my third company, which is Zubi. And I'm trying my bit to solve the problem of coordination and upskilling, which are stopping the humanity from achieving its true potential. And emerging technologies are very close to my heart. And I've been a TEDx speaker. I've spoken across the country and various countries across Southeast Asia. And looking forward to this panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Aman. Punit.
Hey, thanks, Yuri. So, hi, folks. I'm Punit. I lead courses and innovation at Zubi. So, again, emerging technologies and blockchain is something which we are working on. And personally, I have worked on blockchain for last 3 years, wherein like my responsibility was more of leading the projects and acting as a project developer and developing solutions that includes different protocols, wallets, exchanges, and other applications over blockchain. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure meeting you last year as well, Punit. Thanks. Okay, Tatsiana, over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tatsiana, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Lavatech. And at Lavatech, we are actually operating on clean tech and agtech areas, and we are moving towards CDGs as much as possible. We are supported by Sony and co-founder and CTO of Tesla, European Commission, and some other quite big entities in the clean tech and energy sector. We've been recognized as 100 energy transition startups in Germany last year, and myself, I'm included into Forbes Under 30 list for industry and manufacturing, and I've been receiving various awards around the world from Belarus to Japan. Would be very happy to do this discussion with you.
Thank you, Tatsiana. Yeah, and I can certainly confirm Lavatech is on the right journey, and I'm glad to have been, some source of support there from the beginning, Tatsiana. Thank you for that. Okay, with that, let's move into the debate. So essentially, I'd like to start with Nilotpal. You'll be getting 3 minutes, and we'll give you a signal around 2 minutes and 30 seconds so that we're actually all getting a fair amount of time and that we're not surpassing the time. Nilotpal, to you for your arguments, why blockchain is the technological enabler for accelerating sustainable development adoption.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Joeri, for this. I'm working from my mobile, so there's a bit of a mute and unmute that I have to do right now. So sorry for that. So anyways, I'm starting with the motion and I'm in favor of the motion. So sustainable growth has been a pivotal topic of this century, and why not should it be? When the Arctic Sea has been recording the lowest of levels every year, when the whole of Australia is being burning, showcasing the severity of this change impact, and even closer home in India, right, from the top till the south, we have been seeing our rivers drying up lately, making life almost impossible for the next generation. These examples are pretty much endless. Corona might be a disaster for humans, impacting life, economy, and progress, but it could just be that wake-up call from nature for all of us to measure our steps going forward. Standing at such crossroads of global progress and drastic climate alteration, there is no denying that the world and the businesses needs to undergo a substantial transformation to avoid corporate and life form extinction. But the big question is, How do we do it? How do we measure it? And how do we institutionalize it? With this, I think we have got into some form of introduction to the blockchain space now. We are currently in the fourth industrial revolution where data forms the pillar of economic underpinning, and technology has been intersecting all verticals and horizontals. Yes, we do stand connected, we do stand data-driven, but amidst all of it, there is one missing piece in this entire puzzle, and that's accountability. Accountability, a form of it that is seamless, democratic, organic, unfettered, and unbiased. Thankfully, we now have a solution to this missing puzzle, and no points for guessing that's been proposed by an unknown anonymous nobody called Satoshi Nakamoto in the form of Bitcoin, right? I think we all have smiles on our faces when we hear about it. This essentially manifests as a chain of code and a block of bytes. And I think it's more of a manifestation, which is called the blockchain. Bitcoin is just one form of it. It's a new paradigm that makes people accountable, systems self-regulatory, and processes non-manipulatory, right? Now, I think we need to dive a bit into the specifics of this blockchain and how it's been enabling the space. Deloitte, in their recent report, suggested and claimed that by incorporating digital technologies, companies can start to harvest data about demand, usage, and the life cycle of products for circular economy, which is kind of the basis of entire renewable consumption that we talk about. With proper planning and right implementation of the tech trio, which I call the tech trio, AI, IoT, and blockchain, we can together form a very essential ecosystem to unlock new and much more accurate ways to measure, report, and verify sustainable outcomes. Now, looking at a few possibilities.
Last 10 seconds, Nilotpal.
Okay, sure. Then I think I would try and kind of quickly summarize that for me, the IoT is more like the sensory organ, the AI is more like the processor, and blockchain holds the entire system accountable. With blockchain's undeniable and decentralized trust, unsustainable practices can no longer be cloaked by ignorance, willfulness, or otherwise, which has been done by corporations for years in the past. So that's pretty much my starting comments for this debate. Thank you.
Fantastic. So much energy. Thank you so much. And please, for all speakers, Mehdi is actually on the lower part of the Zoom. He's chatting up when the 2 minutes and 30 seconds are reached. So please have a look at that so that you can close out. Thank you so much, Nilotpal. Over to you, Aman, to give a little bit more of a critical note on blockchain.
All right, great. Thanks. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. Thanks, Nilotpal, for giving the starting point. Of course, you talked about the natural disasters and the climate change. So let me talk about, there's no country that is not experiencing the drastic effects of climate change. And greenhouse emissions are more than 50% than in 1990s. And global warming is causing the lost long changes for the climate system, which threatens the irreversible consequences if we do not act on top of it. And on top of it, we are adding another technology which requires the energy, which is harming the natural resources, and the annual average of economic losses for climate-related disasters are in hundreds of billions of dollars after this new technology has got into its existence. So supporting vulnerable regions will directly contribute not only to the sustainable goal 13, which we talk about, the green energy and the climate, and these actions must also go in hand in efforts to integrate the disaster risk measures. So talking about blockchain does not have a good reputation in terms of the environment performance for sure. And this is because despite growing the knowledge, the term is strongly associated with the cryptocurrencies and specifically Bitcoin. The price is appreciating, but also the energy demand and the consumption is also accelerating, and the requirement is, of course, picking up to an extent. So Bitcoin mining activities we're already aware that these are energy intensive, and the proof of algorithm by which the transactions are verified, the new coins are generated, involves a very high computational effort. And talking from India, a single transaction now consumes about a 1.5 average household per day of electricity from an Indian perspective. And this must be viewed critically since there is a lot of mining going on. And in China as well, of course, we have seen that China has been a leader, but ultimately we belong to this world and globe. We are not talking about a particular country. So there are necessary electricity often comes from a coal-fired power station, which is extremely harmful to the climate. So Bitcoin is the most popular application of the blockchain, but it is not environment friendly, and we do not see that it has to be a global acceptance, considering that it is harming the nation, it is harming the globe in terms of the sustainability. And considering talking from the sustainability development goal, it is not environment friendly at all. Thank you.
Wow, Aman, I'm really impressed by the depth and the width of all of your arguments here. Jeroen, do you want to give it a chance to get the audience back on pro blockchain?
Of course. I'm going to talk about personal data. Your personal data is being compromised by a lot of big companies. To avoid this from happening, it is now possible to lock up your own data on the blockchain. And blockchain enables you to protect your own personal data by adding your personal data in a vault on the blockchain. And this means you control your own data and nobody else. You can even commercialize your own data. This makes the world a much better place and also sustainable. But let me first tell you something about blockchain in relation to personal data and its privacy. As you probably know, it's possible to store information on the blockchain. And as soon as it's stored on the blockchain, it cannot be modified or erased anymore. The information is immutable. And another important aspect of the blockchain is decentralization. Decentralized means no one is in control. No one company has control over the information which is stored on the blockchain. And that makes it a democratic technology. So it's immutable, it's decentralized, it's safe, and it's encrypted as well. As you all know, we use social media like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we don't have to pay anything to use these services. But now slowly but surely, we are starting to realize that if you don't pay for the product, you are the product. And the same thing is happening in my world, which is the world of sports. I'm from the professional football world. I'm a FIFA match agent. And in our world, clubs collect a lot of data about their players. But also here, the data is being compromised. This data is often sold to data brokers, betting and gaming companies, etc. Those companies make huge amounts of money. And I think we need to stop this. And blockchain is ideal for this purpose, as I already explained. And that is exactly why we started Marigo Sports. With Marigo Sports, we give every athlete, every player, every football player in the world, the option to store their own personal data on the blockchain in the Marigo Vault and regain full control. And we start with the youth because we feel that youth, they need the most protection. Should anyone be interested in using your data, this can only be done after the player or the athlete is giving his or her consent. In exchange, getting compensated with fiat money or cryptocurrency as well. This means you can commercialize your own data, your own personal data. So using blockchain for this purpose makes the world more transparent, more honest. And do we want democracy to work? You need to be in control of your own data. Well, this is my opening argument. Back to Joeri.
Great. So can I just start before Punit can take forward?
Yeah, you have 3 minutes. So
great. So I'll just finish in like 10 seconds and then Punit can take over. So my friend talked about the securities. We all know about the Eclipse attack. Nodes on the blockchains does not remain in constant communication. They have to be, right? An attacker who manages to take the control of one's node communication and fool into accepting the false data. And we have seen this happening with the headlines of cryptocurrency hacks and all. So whatever the technology is there, it does not exist in vacuum. The cryptocurrency hack driving the recent headlines are usually failure that this technology is not 100% secure. Over to you, Punit.
Thank you, Aman.
Thanks, yeah. So Nilotpal talked about the tech trio of using IoT, blockchain, and AI. But most of these sensors that we have currently, so we depend on sensors like RFID tags or barcodes, to scan the different data that is being coming in. So using the tech trio, when you're scanning these data from IoT sensors and you're storing the data on blockchain, blockchain does not have a mechanism to check the quality of data that is coming to it, right? So if the sensors are getting manipulated, if the sensors are tampered with, whatever the tampered data is coming is being stored on blockchain. And the data which is being tampered can cause, like a huge harm to the organizations that specifically depend on these data, like the government. And this can cause a huge harm to them when they are dependent on these data. Jeroen, my friend, talked about the data that is being used or the data privacy that blockchain carries on. But blockchain does not protect the data from untrustworthy sources, such as authorized but potentially tainted parties. It cannot prevent well-formatted but incorrect or inaccurate data that is being sent and stored in the system. So such data quality issues, might be very harmful where the transparency of data is desirable, especially in government applications, in applications that require the transparency. So this is my opening argument.
So Punit just mentioned about the data coming from the devices. And of course, we talk about blockchain trusting the trustless. So ultimately, we are removing the trust from a central authority and trusting the devices which are fetching the data and putting on blockchain. Ultimately, we are trusting some or the other thing, if not the tangible human being, but the devices which are fetching the data and storing it on the blockchain. So the trust is shifting, but the questions are still unanswered with this new growth of technology. Over to the other side.
Wow, that was a great cooperation between the both of you. Thank you so much. Like Punit was already alluding to it, government applications. Would you like to take it from there, Ms. Rama Devi?
Sure. Thank you, Joeri. I'll start with quoting what the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said in his speech to the General Assembly. He described digital technologies as having the ability to turbocharge progress towards the SDGs. And when he said technologies, digital technologies, he was referring to AI, blockchain, cloud, and so on. And when you talk about blockchain, the first thing even which, Aman was mentioning about, cryptocurrencies and the significant use of energy that goes into that. It's all related to crypto mining and all. But if you leave that aside, and if you look at other applications, the scope is huge, I would say. I come from the government, and there are multitude of use cases that solve in blockchain, that solve bigger problems by bringing in transparency, trust, traceability, and accountability within the government institutions. And the World Economic Forum identifies, 3 areas where blockchain could be an SDG game changer, it says. Building resilient and transparent supply chains, number 1. Second, creating stronger and more accountable public institutions. Third, spurring responsible sourcing and consumption. Of course, in addition to these, there are other disruptors such as, digital currencies, digital identities that are actually making waves recently. Now, coming to the first one, building resilient and transparent supply chains. Even before the pandemic, during the pandemic, all of us have witnessed the vulnerability of global supply chains, right? But even before the pandemic has hit us, we designed to implement a blockchain solution for a public distribution system, which is called PDS here in India. The scheme actually supplies essential food products like rice, pulses to the people who are below poverty line. It's a huge scheme serving around 30 million beneficiaries living across 10,000 villages. And the budget is also huge, around 325 million is spent across, it's a per annum budget. So we believe that, implementing blockchain would help us to ensure food security by supplying quality food grains to the targeted beneficiaries. This is a huge advantage for us, using blockchain. The second one, which is very close to my heart, is creating stronger and more accountable public institutions. I'm seeing at the ground level, I'm working on more than dozen use cases in blockchain for the government, projects. So, especially one of the most important use case for us is land record. In India, especially in Telangana or in Hyderabad, where I live, you cannot actually, you're not sure whether you're buying your plot or flat from a genuine buyer. They say a historical monument like Taj Mahal can be sold to anybody, That's the state of affairs in Hyderabad. So we actually implemented a pilot project using blockchain technology to bring in trust and transparency in the whole, land registration process. And today that particular project is one of the finalists in the Gartner's, Innovation Eye. It's the only project from India that has reached that finalist.
The last 10 seconds, please.
In the APAC region. So The second example that I would like to quote is, it's in the microfinance area where we are actually issuing credit scores to about 10,000 women, which wasn't possible before the use of blockchain. So we are using it to bring trust, transparency, and accountability in the public institutions. We are bringing in inclusion using blockchain technology. So blockchain is, I would say, a godsend for us, in fact. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. So
can I take the first 10 seconds from the against side again? Sorry. I wanted to counter the point which she has made about land records. I think ma'am has forgot that land records are not even digitized in India. And over the years, we have seen the internet adoption is steadily increasing over the world. But unfortunately, in a country called India, 700 million people are still unconnected to this worldwide web technology, and blockchain acts on top of it. So if you're talking about digitizing the land records, if ultimately we have to digitize them, why not build a new system altogether which does not require a blockchain? That's my point. Thank you.
All right. So then I'd like to make the bridge to you, Tatsiana, because Ms. Rama Devi has been talking about food security, and given that you have an agri-tech startup, how do you plead against blockchain? It seems like there's a fair use of it in agri-tech, right?
Yes, but I would want to start with one number. So the population of our planet right now is like 7.6 billion people. 3.8 don't have access to internet. But like what blockchain and use for good we can talk if people don't have access to internet in the first place, and they don't have any technology to use this access, they don't have education, and 1 billion people right now is starving because of the hunger. And using blockchain to provide them food is like not a very efficient way. You're basically getting to play with a new toy, and because of that, you're able to provide some small amount of people food, and just to show that you can use blockchain for it. And yes, you can, but if you would just use some traditional way, old way, you would be able to help way more people. And then also with blockchain and implementation of blockchain through the government systems, it takes a lot of money, a lot of bureaucracy. And I know what I'm talking about. I've been working with Save the Children, with USAID, with World Bank. So yes, they are taking these new toys to play with because it's like, hyped, and they want to show that they are up to date. But because they're doing it, they are helping just a fraction of people they could help with the same amount of money if they just would do it, let's say, more traditional way. Yes, it wouldn't be as digitalized, but does it matter if 1 billion of people right now don't have any access?
Add to your point of food security. So what you said about the food security, let's imagine a package which has a floor for about 5 kilos or maybe 250 grams of pulses. How would you check the counterfeit of each and every pulses which are packed in a packet? You can trust the packet, but I can just take off the packet and put it in the another packet, which is not even tracked on blockchain. So do we need to track each and every pulse which is there in a packet? Do I need to track each and every water? Yeah.
Again, let's go back to the point where 3.8 billion people don't have any access to internet.
True.
How are you gonna check it if they don't have any access to the internet?
I'm in your team. I'm in your team. I was speaking against the motion.
Both of you contradicting your own point.
Back to you, Tatsiana, to finish off.
Yeah, so my point is that blockchain can be used for good. I'm not denying it. It's just that we need to wait if while using it, we can help more people or actually less people, because it requires more of resources in terms of teaching, learning, like making people understanding it, energy resources, resources to actually being able to provide internet access, electronic devices, and so on. So that's more of the question for me, if the idea resource-wise makes sense. And a lot of food issues, I mean, there is technology already, and there are ways on how to solve it right now. It's just not being done by governments or big organizations for whatever reasons. I can talk about it for a very long time. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
I work with the government and I understand the challenges that's here. So, while huge amounts are allocated for, to provide food to the people below various number of services, either to deliver education, health, food security, and so on. But there is always leakages around the pipeline. So while we are using the traditional technologies, and there is a lot of corruption also. So this is one technology that is really helping us to address those challenges. So yes, I do agree. This is a new technology that we are experimenting, but these are actually helping us address certain issues that we were not able to do with the traditional technologies. Yeah, over
Thank
to
you so much. It's great to see the excitement, ladies. And I think that is an important point, Nilotpal. Back to you, because a lot of people don't have access to internet. So how would blockchain work if there's no access to internet? And a lot of people in poverty would want to use it to serve that sustainable development goal, right? Nilotpal.
Hi, Joeri. I think that's a very valid point. As far as internet is concerned, specifically in India, if you look at the overall internet coverage, in the last 5 years, a couple of companies like Jio and a few others have definitely ensured that the internet connectivity is pretty much spread out overall in India. But then at least 5 years back, we did have a huge issue on that front. But I think these are infrastructural challenges, and with time, obviously, would be sorted out. Blockchain is really in the nascent phases. When we talk about a tech and its evolution, it takes years, and it takes sometimes even centuries. And for this particular tech, I believe it's going to take its own time. For those like, as my friend Aman said, that there's a lot of these mining challenges, energy consumption that happens. To them, I say that, see, it's a very nascent stage that we are in. And obviously for them, we have different forms of mining as well, like proof of stake, proof of authority, proof of delegated proof of stake, and others. Yes, Bitcoin for its own form has the proof of mining, the proof of mining that we do, which is energy intensive. But going forward, I think even that might gradually shift towards maybe a proof of stake or DPoS, or maybe a proof of authority. Ethereum, for a matter of fact, has been switching towards POS going forward. That might also bring down on the energy consumption needs on this particular tech. As far as Rama ma'am herself said that there's a lot of these food things coming up. Food in the food sustainability chain, blockchain brings a lot of value add. I do feel yes, it is, and it indeed does, because if you look at food overall as an industry, then globally 1/3 of the entire food production is wasted. And if you can bring that under consumption, under checks, you can essentially remove almost 1/3 of the greenhouse emission from the entire world. That's a stat which has been provided by Deloitte and PwC recently. Now, that is a huge impact. That has got a huge impact. As far as illicit or counterfeit markets are concerned, yes, definitely there would be challenges as far as the initial, what would be the point of entry, whether the IoT devices are being properly manipulated, or is being manipulated or not. Those challenges definitely comes in. But then having said that, these are all initial hiccups on an overall larger scale of tech advancement that we are in. And I believe we need to give it its own time. We are definitely progressing. I'm sure ma'am would agree that Telangana government has been doing phenomenal job across India. And the same model has been trying to be built across Gujarat, Mumbai, even Pune is now trying to adopt it. And we definitely look up to government of Telangana for the various works that they've been doing. But I think, yeah, just the beginning of the journey, and it's a long step forward going ahead in front of us. So blockchain definitely is going to stay.
Thank you so much, Nilotpal. I was hearing some voices in the background. Maybe Pravati, if you can mute the other accounts on here, that would be great. So okay, like Nilotpal's been saying, my friend Aman, yeah, you guys are certainly friends. But are you friends at this moment? Aman, the word back to you for your closing arguments on against the blockchain.
All right, so I've already talked about the security, I've already talked about the climate, and of course, I've been working in that. It's unfortunate to be on the other side, but I think there are certain limitations and challenges. And sometimes it seems that if everyone has bought into the hype, industries are far-flung, and the real estate and diamond sales have embraced blockchain without entirely knowing how is it happening or what are the features. So if I talk from the other side of it, people are just buying this 4-letter word called hope. They're not buying this technology. They are buying this hope because something will happen over a period of time. We'll be able to raise the investment, and it's not really being implemented to an extent with the understanding of the awareness or with the understanding of this technology. So I usually tell people, like with Zubi, we are also doing this awareness challenge gap, wherein people need to understand the essence of technology rather than force-fitting this technology in each and every solution, because people think blockchain is God, which is not. So you need to understand where do you fit in blockchain and where do you don't. And the truth is that the blockchain is not as secure as it is believed to be. And its feature can rebound in unfortunate ways. In research, I've also conducted some of the things where things have been written that breaches have happened in 2011 to 18. And these breaches actually cost about a $2 billion or more. And many of these breaches were possible because the blockchain is actually vulnerable in some of the ways that conventional central record keeping systems are also the same. So the rest are even more troubling because bad actors were able to exploit the very features and the make blockchain revolutionary. Transparent, distributed, anonymity are just the adjectives which are there along with this textbook. And this, of course, have a long way to go in terms of the adoption, and definitely needs to be looked at from the technological aspect, because the anonymity, immutability, distributed control are fine. But if you don't really address the fundamental question of awareness, second is how we can protect the creative ways to cheat. How we can protect the creative ways to cheat, and also the centralized question. Because one supposed security guarantee of a blockchain system is decentralization. So if copies of the blockchain are kept on a large and widely distributed network of nodes, there is no weak point to attack. And it's hard for anyone to build up enough computing power to subvert this network. And recently we have seen Ethereum is a decentralized network, as you might think, but they found that the top 4 Bitcoin mining operations have more than 53% of the system average mining capacity per week. So by the same measure, the Ethereum miners have about 61%. So again, it looks like a decentralization, but it is actually not. And some say that alternative consensus protocol perhaps will be one of the solutions which can make this more secure. But this hypothesis has not been tested on the large networks and large protocols, and would likely to have their own security problems over a period of time. So I see this technology have a huge potential, but I think we need to understand the awareness. Fundamental question needs to be addressed both from a technology and also securing the creative ways to cheat and addressing the centralized question in a more profound manner. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aman.
Just a quick 10 seconds from me, Joeri, over there. So as my friend Aman rightly said just now, that a lot of these things, challenges definitely are there. And as I rightly said, that we have to kind of move ahead with time. Over time, then things are going to settle down, and we are going to bring maybe the best version of blockchain in. But the very fact that Aman himself said that wish I was on the other side of the debate clearly says that this debate is pretty much on par of this motion. But I think the rest, I think the panelists.
I think the point here is I love this technology, but I don't blindly love this technology.
Fair enough. And then moving over to you, Jeroen, because Aman has been mentioning that it is not as secure as it's supposed to be. It's still early days. He also acknowledged that. But there's breaches happening, right? There's vulnerabilities. And you were talking about data control. If there's no security, then what about the privacy? And Aman has also been saying that it is not so decentralized at the moment. You want to take this one? It's quite a lot of load to inject into your point of view.
Well, I actually agree with the point that with that Anand is making. I don't have any doubts about that. I'm also convinced that technology will work on both security sides, not just on let's say the breach side, but also on the protection side. So in the end, those developments will make blockchain more safe. But it definitely has a point. In sports, data accuracy is key. It's really important. Just to give you an example, I have a brother, and my brother is a football manager of a professional football club from the Netherlands. They have a player on loan from a French first division club, and he received medical data about the player from his player agent, and he also decides to request the same data from the French first division club directly. So guess what happened? The data was not the same. And can you imagine the implications for the player should my brother base a decision on the wrong data? And we are convinced, even with the development on the protection and on the wrong side, that this would never have happened if the data was verified and stored in his own vault, which he controls himself on the blockchain. which is trusted and decentralized. Of course, we can have a debate about if it's decentralized, yes or no. Verified, encrypted, so it's safe. And you have to see things in the course of time. You also have to see how it's organized right now and where we are going to. And what is happening right now is that all that data is being collected by the clubs and by companies like video analysis, performance data analysis companies, and they sell these data to betting and gaming companies, and they make money out of it without compensating the player for it. So having this data in your own vault in the blockchain and your full control about it, and you give your consent to requesters of this specific data, you control that. I think that's a very huge step in the direction of democracy, especially for those players, because it's just a risk if data is coming in the wrong hands. And what I already was mentioning, it could have big implications for the player. But even if the data is right, he's not making any money out of it, which is also not correct. So that's actually my second point. And again, Anan and also Punit.
Last 10 seconds.
Yeah, you guys are absolutely right. But you need to think, you need to see things in the course of time.
Don't worry about it. We also work with the technology. It's just a debate.
Exactly.
So one
exactly.
anecdote. Yeah, sorry, Joeri. One anecdote. I think we all are aware of this complicated hack which has happened. So the touch point between the blockchain and the real world are the smart contracts, which are computer programs stored in a certain kinds of blockchain, which can automate the transaction. In 2016, an unforeseen smart contract hack written on blockchain stole about 3.6 million Ether, which is about $80 million or more at this point in time, through this DAO, which is decentralized autonomous organization, a new kind of investment on blockchain. So now look at this. Since the DAO code lived on the blockchain, the Ethereum community had to push a controversial software upgrade called the hard fork to get the money back. And essentially, if you're creating the new version of history in which the money was never stolen, then how can we say this technology is secure and 100% decentralized?
All right, Punit, you can follow up from there.
Sure. So Nilotpal did mention about using different consensus mechanisms like proof of stake, DPoS, proof of authority, etc. But Nilotpal and others, like using these consensus mechanism, are we still aiming for complete decentralization? Using consensus mechanisms like proof of stake, wherein people or the members who wants to mine the blocks on that particular network, they do have to stake a certain amount. Doesn't that give the power to the ones who are rich, who have the enough money to stake? And doesn't it take the power back from the people who don't have enough money to stake it on? Does it create a rich and poor gap in the network? If yes, is that the solution to the energy consumption that proof of work is taking in currently? Second, there's Rama ma'am did mention about the blockchain's use case in finance, which they are trying to implement in the state of Telangana. But ma'am, currently the systems that we have as Visa, MasterCard, the transactions per second is almost 22,000 to 25,000. But in the case of very widely known blockchains like Bitcoin, Ethereum, in Bitcoin, we do have transactions per second as like 6 to 7, maybe max 10. In Ethereum, it can extend up to 15 to 20. And when we are comparing these numbers, like 20 versus 22,000, there's a still long way that we need to go in. So scalability is definitely a problem both in all the kinds of blockchain, which is public blockchain or the permissionless blockchain, wherein anyone can become a node, and then that adds to a lot of scalability problem because the latency increases. In permissioned blockchain, again, it's not a true sense of blockchain because you have a trusted set of nodes whom you are allowing to mine. But again, even if the latency gets down, the scalability would be a problem. And it also is a problem in the case of hybrid blockchain. So how do we address to 7 billion population when the scalability is just 10 to 15 transactions per second?
Joeri, can I just take 10 seconds?
You're on mute, Joeri.
Joeri, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you. So basically we have 2 more speakers left, and I would like to invite the audience to already start writing up their questions so that we can address that. 3 minutes to your team, Ms. Rama Devi, and Nilotpal wants to have a quick say.
Yeah, just a 10-second from my side. So the beauty of innovation is that it needs to be broken and broken again. This is specifically for Aman, because just now he talked about the hard fork that
We lost you, Nilotpal.
We lost
market
you,
right now in the
Nilotpal.
last Sorry, can you hear me?
Now we can. Yeah, please keep it short.
Yeah, sure. Just 10 seconds. So I'm just referring to Aman's statement. Just now he said that the Ethereum hard fork happened in 2016. For me, innovation needs to happen. When innovation happens, it needs to be broken and broken again. So whatever happened in 2016 has been happening in 2020 as well. In the DeFi space, there's been multiple, in fact, tons and tons of cyber attacks that's going on. But I think that's what kind of gives us the space to grow and the space to know what doesn't work. So
if I lost 1 Ether of mine, where should I go?
Fair
and
enough.
report
No,
to?
I need to stop you guys here. Ms. Rama Devi, respect for your time. 2.5 last minutes for you for the closing argument.
Sure. I mean, there are a lot of, problems that are actually showcased by the earlier speakers. Well, most of the use cases that I've actually shared with you earlier are only related to blockchain technology. But if you're going to combine AI, IoT, and other technologies, the use cases are going to be, to explode, I would say, So while blockchain cannot be a panacea for all ills, and it does not have all the solutions, I agree. There are challenges in terms of performance. So we are selecting use cases where we can actually address a certain kind of problem. And as Aman has said, we are not using blockchain for everything. We are not using technology for the sake of it, but we are identifying relevant use cases where it can solve a certain problem. It can address a certain problem. And in that, blockchain is, performing excellently, I would say. For example, traceability of agri products that will help reduce food waste and enable the scope of impact of recall if you want to recall a product or so. Especially in India, we have another problem called fake drugs. So blockchain is one successful technology that's being experimented, I would say, to track or to identify fake drugs, or you can call it anti-counterfeiting drugs. That's one area. And the most important one that I look at is we have digital identity Aadhaar for 1 billion population. And right now it's a centralized database that is there. Imagine somebody hacking the database, compromising all our identities. So in fact, I would prefer, decentralized digital IDs. That's where I'm coming from. 1 billion population, decentralized digital IDs is what I'm looking at. Well, just to answer most of the problems that are, solution to most of the problems that people have shared, we have actually, we have come up with a 3-pronged approach, identify relevant use cases, first implement as pilot projects, understand the challenges, issues, infrastructure issues, performance issues, and then based on that, go for full-scale implementation. This worked excellently for us, and I'm sure, others can also adopt the same. And lastly, the core competencies of blockchain, providing transparency, trust, immutability, data auditability, and privacy, will drive the governments to explore more use cases. And I believe this would accelerate sustainable development adoption. Over to you, Joeri.
Thank you so much. And I'm really encouraged to hear that the government is looking at exploring so many use cases. Thank you for all the energy that you put into that. Tatsiana, the closing statements from your side, and then we'll move over to Q&A and voting.
Thank you. So I would just come back to the food security question for like 5 seconds. In terms of food security and tracking food with blockchain, as a person who actually works in the area, I can tell you that there are solutions that are simpler, cheaper, and easier to implement. The other question that they're not being used, but if to choose, there are solutions that would be better than blockchain at this point. And then in terms of use of blockchain by the government, as a person from Estonia, we're like super digital country, and we are actually using blockchain for a lot of government purposes, and I see how it is used, and I'm amazed by it. But just don't forget that we are only 1 million people, and I, at the moment, very hardly can imagine how this technology could be used for a country with 1 billion people. And also, again, going back to the question, in the areas where not everyone has the access to the internet, the whole point of the government using blockchain system is that when everyone has the equal access to it, and everyone has equal access to the possibilities and opportunities, and basically everyone could use the system and operate on it from a lot of, in Estonia, we use it everywhere from corporate finance, healthcare, social, everywhere. But again, everyone has access to it. Every citizen, every resident in Estonia has access to the internet, has access to like phone or laptop, and can use it on daily basis. How do you implement it in the areas where people just don't have even a chance to access it? Basically, the technology not going to be able to operate as it should, and it will show very inconsistent and very, I don't know, like cut it data that is not really relevant or would bring any good to use it for government analytics. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Tatsiana. So Tatsiana has been addressing the scalability issue. If it's already difficult with 1 million people, how do you want to do it with 1 billion people? And then obviously, Ms. Rama Devi has been saying the single point of failure is there, meaning that a lot of systems are compromised, and once a hacker gets in, then yeah, the entire database is being exposed, right? So now over to the audience for any questions, if there is any, and otherwise we'll move over to the voting. So is there any questions, Mehdi, Parvati, at this stage? And otherwise, is there anybody that would like to unmute and would like to ask a question? All right. There's no questions. Is that correct? Please don't be shy.
Yeah, we can wait. Maybe some people are shy, as you said. But yes, it was very great discussion, very challenging. So I guess some of the questions are already solved, but we are curious. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. Then we have a poll at the end to see what is your reaction. Maybe we can start the poll. Joeri, what do you think?
Yeah, is there still anybody that would like to ask a question and unmute? Or do you have a question, Mehdi?
No, I really enjoy it because I already saw it the similar last year, and I really was curious about to see it again. So it's very pleased to see all of you again here, and the great moderating by you. So thank you a lot. So it was great.
It's much.
I have one question.
There we go. Please.
From the YouTube chat, I have one question. So lack of awareness seems to be a big challenge for blockchain, especially in applications other than in the banking sector. So how do you think we can overcome this challenge?
Awareness. Okay. So each team has 3 minutes to answer the question. Who would like to start?
Anyone?
Okay. So awareness, the very fact of lack of awareness can be removed with knowledge. And I think that's the basic premise of being aware, right? So I think that's something that the entire community has been trying to drive, that for those who have already been in the system, for those who have already been a part of some of the processes or some of the implementations, they have been trying to drive the message, what blockchain can do, what is like the very facets or the very pillars of blockchain, like transparency, auditability, etc., that we talk about. there are several use cases that Rama ma'am already highlighted. I think these use cases needs to be much more highlighted to the general public. The work that Telangana government and the various other governments have been doing have to be also highlighted, because till date I've been sensing that people are more are still dicey about this whole technology, because they feel that crypto and blockchain is connected, and since crypto doesn't have a proper stand in India, so people are a bit hesitant to kind of get into the space. I believe it's just a matter of time when things gets cleared out. But on a much larger scale, I think the government, whatever work they have been doing, that needs to come out in broad light. Maybe some kind of a live seminar or webinar could be hosted by the government every week, because ultimately it's the government stand which has to come out. Because for people in India, we have been hearing a lot of debate around crypto and blockchain, and they are confused. For us, when we talk about it to the people, they feel we are in favor of crypto and not of blockchain, and we are just trying to drive our propaganda. But that's not the case. We have been trying to kind of drive the message overall. But I think now it's time that the government starts coming out and starts promoting what blockchain can do, what are the benefits. And I think that's where the schools, colleges, and various institutions will try to kind of get into the space. I think that's the very basic requirement right now on the stage that we are in.
Just to quickly add to what Nilotpal said, we in fact did all that, We initially had one awareness workshop. Then post that, what we did, we identified a particular department or an organization, understand its domain, and explain them, what could be the potential use cases for blockchain? What are the problems that it would address? What are the pain points that actually can solve? So we just sort of educate them. Then we slowly ask them to implement a small pilot to make them understand how it works, what are the challenges, it's actually addressing. And then finally, once they understand, that the whole thing, then we actually go for larger implementations. This is what we have been doing.
Just 30 seconds before Punit opens up. I think we all have been doing it wrong, trust me. This technology does not have to be taught just like another technology in terms of that it requires coding. In order to have the mass success of this technology is that this technology should be looked at from various aspects: finance, accounts, philosophy, psychology, different aspects. And then comes to where this technology can be an enabler or tool to address certain problems and challenges which we are trying to cater from this technology. So Zubi have been doing this through awareness, upskilling programs for the students who are there in a country called India, because in India, about 15 lakh engineers, 1.5 million engineers are graduating every year. About 80% of them are unemployable, which means they do not really have the right skill set to work in the companies which will be emerging over a period of time. So the real ingredient for this success and the mass adoption will only happen when we break this barrier and say that this is not just another technology which has been which requires a coding. Like, I'm an engineer by chance. I looked at this technology from economics lens, finance, accounts, and different other things. Then I came to the different fundamental aspects. So that's from my side.
Thank you so much. And anybody else? Yeah, Punit.
Sure. So I agree to what Aman said, but adding to one thing, that in the end, if any blockchain solution has to be developed, we would need developers to do that. And with this space, which is emerging so fast, there are a lot of things which are coming in which people haven't heard about before. For example, DeFi, which was recently on a roll, which people haven't heard about. And then there are like 6,500 plus different blockchain networks. Everyone is coming up with their own network. And then there is no sort of interoperability which we do have in, or there's no single standardization that we have in for different networks. So if you want to create the awareness, creating awareness for 6,500 different networks is a huge challenge that we have seen while we have been teaching this particular technology for long. So there are like use cases on different blockchains. For example, recently Tron as a blockchain gotten a lot of adoption, but it's hard to find Tron developers. So with that's what I'm that is something that I want to add to it.
And one quick point over there, Joeri. I think it's applicable across the globe that when such an innovation happens at such a large scale, it is bound to go through its cycles of failures. And I'm quite happy that the entire government, in fact, the various governments across the globe, they have not been trying to hinder the progress, and they have been quite motivational about the entire thing. it's going to take time. This very concept of decentralization, that centralization is in certain places, in certain parts, not really the most beneficial solution for us. That ethos, that the thesis has to be driven across. And once people start understanding that, I think that's the very moment blockchain becomes much more mass scale. I think the governments have been giving us the space to breathe, and I think that's something which is phenomenal from all the governments alike. And I would like to thank everyone in the panel for participating, and even Mr. Rama Lanka for doing so much for the Hyderabad government and the entire government of India for promoting this technology overall across the country.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much. Is there still anything you'd like to add, Jeroen or Tatsiana?
Yes, I would like to add something. Well, first of all, Joeri, thank you for moderating this panel. It was fun to watch you working and controlling all the people. It's nice. But with regard to awareness, I think an important thing to mention is that I already mentioned I work in the world of football. Football is probably the biggest religion from the world, and that is a perfect space to promote blockchain-related projects. And one of those projects is I'm not sure if you've heard about it, is socials.com, who have generated a lot of fan tokens for clubs like FC Barcelona and Juventus and Paris Saint-Germain, big names in the world of football. And of course, a lot of people don't understand that it's actually blockchain technology, and they focus more on the fan engagement part. But still, football as a whole, or sports as a whole, I think is a perfect marketing tool to promote blockchain as a technology, but also specifically as use cases, because the technology for a lot of people is not always the most interesting part. It's what you can do with it in the end. So that's the last point I would like to make. And thank you all guys for being in the panel.
Yeah, thank you. So should indeed blockchain be be raised outside in its awareness, or should it just be a seamless integration in the tech stack, right? I think that's basically what you're mentioning. Tatsiana, any last closing comments from you, or is everything been said?
I will just say like 10 seconds that the panel discussion is about blockchain technology for sustainable development goals. So I agree that there are a lot of uses of blockchain, from like sports to finance, that are justified and probably will bring a lot of good. But if we're coming to sustainable development goals, there might be better solutions at this moment. And maybe there definitely will be time for blockchain to be used for those areas and to help sustainable development goals to be reached. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatsiana. Amazing. All right, so I got the signal that we have a few more minutes left for the voting. So I suppose that you, Maddie, get the voting started. So basically, I would like to invite the audience to cast your vote on whether you are more in favor of the motion or that you're a little bit more skeptical. So if you are in favor of the motion, then please click yes. And if not, and you think that blockchain still has a long way to go when it comes to sustainable development goals, then please click no, and we'll have a look. Last year it was a very close call. I'm curious to find out how it is this time around.
So this time, if we lose
last year.
So it's this time
this
if we
year
lose.
does not seem to be very close. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it does not look to be too close. I can see that it is really like, yeah, there is a clear.
So if we lose as a team, we win as a technology.
100%. 100%.
What were the results last year?
Absolutely.
Who won?
The anti-side.
Yeah. The
anti-side. Yeah, but we are now 1 year further ahead, so this might change right now.
Oh.
What's the result? Where we can see.
Let's give it a few more minutes.
A few more. Yeah.
Still voting.
So please click yes if you're in favor, or no if you still think that there's a long way to go for blockchain in respect to sustainable development goals.
Yeah, I keep the vote more 10 seconds open. So please, everyone, whoever hasn't done so.
Last chance to click either yes or no.
So right now it is like 75% says yes and 25 says no. So
shall I close it? So end it?
Just, I think, yeah, it's going. Oh, okay. It's still yes. 76. Good. Good for some.
I thought, everybody would say no.
Yeah.
Well, that happened, right?
That was the situation last year. So hopefully that helped. Okay, so we are closed on 76% on yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go for
Fantastic. Then I think that it actually really helped, and that all of us have contributed a real fair share, or at least I've been really enjoying all of your viewpoints and all of the expertise that you've been sharing, and I could relate to pretty much all of it on both sides. And altogether, I think we are somehow proponents of the technology. It's just that we need to be wary of the potential downsides. And yeah, with the internet, it was pretty much the same. In 1995, who said that we would be riding a taxi from just anybody, yeah, and just step into a car and work on your mobile phone, right? So yeah, let's see where we are again next year and see how this develops every year through. So thank you so much for your time and your insightful insights, and look forward to continue the conversation.